We're here ahead of the Lens Awards, which is taking place this evening, and I'm joined by Richard Thomson, who's CEO at Kaptcha, and they're shortlisted for several categories tonight, including Best Use of Artificial Intelligence and Best Employer Brand Video. Welcome, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Could you give us some insight into one of your campaigns, which is your work for Grant Thornton, which is shortlisted for Best Use of Artificial Intelligence? Could you just give us some insight into that campaign and what it's all about, and why AI for this campaign?
So Grant Thornton wanted a main brand film that was going to give them real impact. They wanted a film that was going to be remembered not just for a few weeks, but for several months, for all their stakeholders, both internal and external. There were certain constraints. They had a relatively tight budget and they had a tight time frame. So traditional film could have worked, but not within those constraints. So we started looking at AI and we said, could we do this with AI? And should we do this with AI? Really importantly, Grant Thornton had done a lot of strategic thinking about the brief when they came to us. So it was really clear what their tone of voice was, what they wanted to achieve with the film, the core messages that they wanted to get across. So before we turned to AI at all of the pre-production, the concepting, the scripting, AI went nowhere near that. That was done with our usual creative team, just humans. It was once we got to the filming stage that really opened up what we could do creatively and the speed with which we could do it. So we could start looking at ways of doing things that traditionally would have taken maybe months to do. With traditional filming would have cost 10, 20 times more. When we started making the film, the models, the AI models were evolving all of the time. And what we were doing was really at the sort of top end of what you could do with AI models at that stage. In fact, one of the models, Nano Banana, came out right in the middle of us making the film. And that meant we could do crazy things that we probably couldn't have done a month earlier, which was fantastic. So that's how we got to doing AI, and that's where we got to.
And how did you, I mean, was there much sort of, I suppose it probably felt a little experimental using AI, and was there any sort of trepidation around using it?
Absolutely. I'll be honest, we'd played around internally with AI, but we'd never done a commission piece by a client. So there was huge trepidation. But I think, to be honest, even with traditional filming, filming is always about solving problems for the client, getting a message across. And a lot of the time it's sort of pushing boundaries, trying to do stuff that you haven't done before. So there's always that sort of element of, even with traditional filming, is this going to work? Are we going to be able to do it within the budget, within the time we've got? I would say probably times 5 with AI. It was, it was even tougher, but it was such a fun experiment. And the fact that you could just let your creativity go wild was wonderful.
So what was the incentive for this campaign? What was the real sort of reason that this initiative was needed?
Grant Thornton are a large company, but in the sector they're in, they're not the largest. There are the big 4. And they wanted to increase their turnover. They wanted a big campaign to really differentiate themselves from the competition. As I said earlier, it had to be a campaign that was going to be memorable, not just for the short term, but for the long term. So they wanted something that was really brave and that would stand out. Ultimately, that's what they wanted to achieve. I'm really pleased to say the film did incredibly well. The morning the film came out, it got more views on their social platforms than all of their other films combined over the previous 12 months. I think it got 24 times more views than their average film, and it got 12 times more views than their competitors. And considering some of their competitors are really big companies, it was also Moving Images' most successful film of the year, which was really, really rewarding for us.
And so, adding on to that then, what is the sort of ongoing value that you're seeing from this campaign for Grant Thornton?
I think it's an internal confidence. We talk to their marketing teams, their comms teams, the people we work with, and they say it's just given us a braveness to sort of push boundaries even further. They want to do that as a company themselves, but doing an AI film really put them at the forefront of what other people in their sector were doing. All of their competitors are talking about AI, but they did, at that stage, they weren't doing something quite as brave as this. So I think it's given them that confidence internally to talk in a very authoritative voice.
Okay, well, thank you for giving us some insight to the campaign. It sounds like a very strong contender for the Lens Awards tonight.
Thank
And
you,
best
Rebecca.
of luck.
Thank you very much.